Hi, I'm Lauren Thomas, and in this lecture video, we'll talk about the social ecological model. The origin of the ecological model, or the social ecological model, comes from Urie Bronfenbrenner from the 1970s. He's a developmental psychologist, and he concluded that child development, human growth and development occurs through a process of back and forth interactions, sort of reciprocal interactions between a variety of complex layers in a person's immediate environment. And that these interactions occur consistently, fairly regularly over time in order to have a cumulative effect and influence. So the effect of these back and forth interactions at these various levels depend on the characteristics of the person, the developmental stage of the person, and the environment in which that interaction takes place. So Bronfenbrenner wants to emphasize that the immediate environment is comprised of concentric levels of relationships that affect human behavior. In our textbook, it's a public health textbook, so we are using the World Health Organization's ecological model, but there are many other versions of the same concept. In social work, the ecological model is also considered, and these layers may be referred to as systems, maybe microsystems, mesosystems, exosystems, macrosystems, but the concept is still the same, that factors at various levels influence health behavior. Again, we in the textbook are using World Health Organization's 5-level model for the ecological model, but also there's other versions. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention often utilize a 4-level social ecological model to better understand and create prevention strategies when it comes to health promotion or disease prevention. And no matter what 4-level or 5-level that you're using, these models are considering the complex interplay between the individual, the relationships that are immediate to them, their community, their immediate community environment, and societal factors that are influencing their own environment. And it allows us to understand the range of factors that put people at risk for disease or put a society at risk for dysfunction. The overlapping rings in the model illustrate how factors at one level influence factors at another level. So this approach is a way to be much more robust and systematic about prevention efforts, preventing dysfunction, preventing disease efforts over time. And when we think about it from that perspective, we're able to achieve a greater level of impact on not just an individual, but also within the dynamic relational family dynamic, the parent-child dyad, for example, at the community level, and even make a population health impact as well. So let's go back to the 5-level social ecological model and start with that core center factor. It's the intrapersonal level factors. You've heard that term before. This first level identifies the biological and the personal factors that may increase the likelihood of dysfunction. Some of these are factors that are inside a person that impact their health behavior, such as attitudes, perceptions, beliefs, their personality and temperament, the existing skills, existing knowledge, maybe their personal history. Perhaps they've experienced adverse childhood events in their past. Self-efficacy is another piece. Growth mindset or a fixed mindset could be another element. And again, genetics and biological factors are at play. The second level is interpersonal level factors. These are those close relationships that an individual may have with other people that are in their immediate environment that impact their health, their own behaviors, their own way of viewing the world. This second level really examines those relationships that could increase the risk of that person experiencing disease or experiencing family dysfunction. So you're really looking at that person's closest social circle, peers, their, partners, maybe their family members, their parents. These are influences. These relationships influence their behavior, and they contribute to their perception of how they view reality. So strategies at the interpersonal level that can promote health might be, positive parenting programs, mentoring, peer programs that are designed to strengthen that parent-child communication efforts. It's also promoting social norms that are healthy, promoting problem-solving skills, conflict resolution skills, promoting healthy relationships. When you're working in that sphere, you're working at the interpersonal level. And when we're talking about improving someone's health behavior or helping them make a change in their own health behavior, why would it be important for us to focus on the interpersonal relationships? Well, these relationships are incredibly influential. They could provide that client or patient that you're working with, those relationships that they have are providing a social identity, a sense of belonging. They can be supportive socially. They make up the support systems. They also can create some real fragile, vulnerable home environments. But they also can define our roles within a social structure. That individual that you're working with may really see themselves as a mother, a father, a daughter, a son, a grandmother, a caregiver. So interpersonal level factors are incredibly influential on someone's behavior. Institutional level factors are the rules and policies associated with organizations that are in communities, workplaces, or schools in a community in which a person is actively participating. So this third level is sometimes, even in the CDC model, lumped in with the community level, and that can be really confusing. But this third level explores those settings, such as a school institution, a workplace institution, even a neighborhood, that you're trying to think about that physical and social environment, these settings that have rules and policies and almost are organized in such a way that they are a system on their own. Here are some examples of institutional level factors. When you are going to school or into a gym or into a public setting and you go to a vending machine and you see the types of food available in a vending machine, that's something that's going to, and you're needing to, get something from this vending machine. So these are your options. This institutional level factor is going to influence your choices of what you consume. Other rules and policies like mandated vaccinations as you enter a school setting or the university setting. A workplace may even have rules that could help you with your level of health by offering you flexible remote work schedules. But then also a workplace that has required third shift work schedules could also influence your own behavior and your sleep schedule. The fourth concentric ring here is called the community level factors. And those are things that happen outside of the institutional setting. These are those sort of, unwritten rules and unique attributes that make a town distinctive. It's those behavioral norms. It's those characteristics of a community that contribute to their culture. So examples of community level factors would be, does your town have available sidewalks and bicycle lanes to make it possible for you to walk from your home into the downtown area and just have a day where you're not driving a car and being sedentary, instead you could physically move throughout your community and feel safe and free from traffic. Does your community have long carpool lines, and are you sitting in traffic? That perhaps the design of the transportation system is not allowing flow and that consistent, regular expectation of having traffic and sitting in traffic becomes, that dreadful part of your day. That's an example of a community level factor influencing your health. Or perhaps you live in a town where you have a beloved farmer's market, and there's beautiful, trusting relationships that exist between the farmer and residents in that town, where there's a great sense of community cohesion. Societal level factors are factors that are genuinely beyond your control as a human being, as an individual. These are broader factors. These are state, federal legislations. These are industry regulations. These are economic policies of a society that are honestly beyond the control or the authority of even a local community. And yet it impacts social norms. It impacts the way the community or the people in that society, that population behaves in a particular way, what they invest in, what they invest their time in, how they spend their money. This larger level here looks at what factors create a climate that either encourages healthy behavior or really restrict healthy behavior from happening. Here are some U.S. society level factors. These are policies or federal programs that you may have benefited from or a loved one has benefited from. The GI Bill in 1944 was passed, and it helped to provide access to soldiers coming back from World War II to go to college. And what this did was normalize the idea that college, higher education, wasn't just for the elite. It could be for the everyday person. And so that was one of those elements where it created a really positive climate around giving access to, at least in this particular example, veterans, access to higher education. The Medicare and Medicaid Act was passed in 1965, and it normalized basic health insurance for people who are older than 65 years old, as well as people with limited income. And it really created a strong value system of what do we as U.S. citizens, what do we really value? Who do we really value? We value our senior citizens and ensuring that they have just the basic health care as almost like a moral stance was taken through this Medicare and Medicaid Act, as well as people who are of limited income, making sure that everyone has access to very basic health care. Head Start, fascinating, was actually a program that the theorist who founded the social ecological model, Uri Brofenbrenner, he spoke to Congress and shared how important it is to create a positive, supportive environment for our young kiddos who may be experiencing or born into systems of poverty, communities of poverty, families of poverty. And so Head Start is a federal program that was approved in the 1960s to provide childcare support for families with low income. I would say most recently, at least in your lifetime, whether you realize it or not, there was in 2010 the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Prior to the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, we had in the 90s a military policy called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And what that meant was, we're not going to ask you about your sexual orientation when you go into the military, and we don't want you to tell us about your sexual orientation as you serve in the military. And that really created some reductions in the military experience of gay and lesbian service members. who had to hide their identity. And social attitudes changed over time from the 1990s to today. And again, this was only 13 years ago when this federal policy changed. And so the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell now created a very positive, or at least not a negative environment, social environment for our LGBTQ military service members. It helped to normalize their military experience. And it's something also that it was a bit of a grievance for people who are in the military who had to previously hide their identity. So the social ecological model is unique in that it describes that health behavior is not something that's just influenced at the self level, that there's influence at a variety of different levels. There's factors at many levels that influence health behavior. It also, helps to allude to that every human being develops through a unique lived experience. There's not one person who has the exact same interpersonal, institutional, community, societal level experience. And those back and forth interactions between those layers influence the person's immediate environment and influences their health behavior. I hope you enjoyed this lecture video on the social ecological model. I really do love learning alongside you.